Anyway, we are broadcasting live here on the United Public Radio Network. Yes, we're back to the regular 107.7 FM from beautiful New Orleans. I'd like to give everyone a reminder to pop on over to the station's channel over on YouTube. Show us a little bit of love by subscribing. You can also subscribe to the UFO Paranormal Radio as well. The only way, big reminder, please, I've got this highlighted because not everybody is getting the message, but join us in chat on the United Public Radio YouTube channel. It's the only way you can communicate with me and our guest. Biggest part of the show. I want to make a point of saying thank you, Folgers Coffee, for partially sponsoring tonight's segment. Really love you. Really appreciate you. Just so you know. Anyhow, we are here. I've got the prelims all done. We have a really good show coming tonight. I've been a fan. I mean, I've loved Egypt for as long as I can remember. I've had the pleasure of visiting, in 1989, and I have to say it was one of the most amazing places I've ever seen in my travels. It's just breathtaking. And I know a lot of people get weird about, going, and a lot of people are pretty brave about going. I definitely have it on my bucket list to do again. But there's always a fascination with the Great Pyramid. And I have to tell you that I was able to spend quite a bit of time in there by myself. And I really just fascinated. It's an anomaly. Its precision is so unbelievable. And people experience having, just unbelievable experiences. They feel like they're in a whole other world that they can tap into, the frequencies in there, the energy. There's just so much going on with it. So when I came across this gentleman who is our guest, Mr. Stephen Meyers, and his theory on how this pyramid was constructed, because nobody really knows. No one's really been able to nail that down. And it's just phenomenal. But it really intrigued me because I had never heard this theory before. So I'm like, I just need to get this guy on here. He's written books about it. There's a foundation built around this whole theory. It's really amazing. So basically, I'll give you the bio and hopefully he'll be joining us soon. So Stephen Meyers is a founder of the non-profit organization called the Pharaoh's Pump Foundation. The foundation's purpose is the research and development of technologies used to build and operate the Great Pyramid as intended by the original builders. This foundation, headed by Mr. Meyers, is conducting research and experimentation to help understand the mysteries of how the Great Pyramid was actually built and why. Our goal is to further the understanding and utilization of the ancient technology related to the Great Pyramid's construction and purpose. Stephen Meyers is an advocate for the redevelopment of the lost ancient high technology of the Great Pyramid, and to use that ancient but advanced technology to help our modern but troubled world. Yes, definitely. So I've got like a whole whack of questions for him as soon as we're able to connect with him. And it is fascinating. For me, I will touch on a little bit of this once we get into the show. But a little bit of background on the Great Pyramid. So the Great Pyramid of Giza was said to be constructed roughly 4,500 years ago in the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom by the pharaoh Khufu. It was built on 13 acres. That is massive. And I can assure you, I've been there. It is massive. It's got roughly 2.3 million limestone and granite blocks cut to size. And the biggest mystery that surrounds this pyramid is the techniques that were used to construct it. And Mr. Meyers says he's figured it out. So, again, constructed with great precision. And the two that are with it were also cut to great precision. They are remarkably aligned in a way that you would not expect, considering that they had no blueprints, no computers, no drones, anything like that. No one has been able to actually figure this out. Some research theorized that perhaps it was used during the fall equinox to assist in aligning of the measurements. We don't really know. A lot of things have been done to this pyramid. They recently used CGI imaging, and the pyramid has been scanned fully, and they have found interesting voids and anomalies, which to me was like phenomenal because they didn't know that when I was there. There's a mysterious chamber under the Great Pyramid, which has also been found. And to top it off, they found a dismantled ship which belonged to the king, which was discovered buried alongside the pyramid. So that's something that we'll come up with as we speak with Mr. Meyers to see how this all works with his theory of a pump system, because it seems pretty elaborate considering we're talking about something that's very mechanical. So pyramid has always been, New Agers have always, gotten into this thing called pyramid power, which is a theory, of course, but it was a huge fad going back into the 1970s. There's actually no scientific evidence to back it up. It was believed to have untapped natural energy. It has a very powerful energy field, of course. It's believed that one can actually enter into the alpha state of consciousness faster and easier if they're either inside the pyramid or under the pyramid. People have had profound experiences inside the Great Pyramid. I surely did, and it was nothing compared to what people claim has happened to them. Some people claim they've actually slipped into, like other dimensions. It's just wild. But with the pyramid power, they've given people spiritual awakenings. But what's really funky about it is people believe that pyramids can provide many health benefits, improve existing health functions, preserve food, sharpen razor blades. There was a story of a man who stumbled into the pyramid at one point. He was doing something there, and he found this little box, and it had dead rodents in it, I guess, who had made their way in there and got trapped. But what was interesting is he said they hadn't decayed at all. The bodies were perfectly preserved. So what's up with that? Again, it's supposed to be a fad, but people started building pyramid structures literally all over the world because they believed that they could go in there and meditate and end up with all these amazing benefits. So I thought, wow, this is really cool. But what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go to break if Joe's listening, and we're going to try to bring in our guest so we can get the ball rolling. And I'm really excited to hear what he's got to say about his theory, and I'm sure you guys are going to love it as well. So, Joe, if we can go to break, that would be awesome. Or not.
Church of Mabus radio show with Jeffrey Pritchett, Wham, and Jay McNicholas, 8 p.m. Eastern Fridays on United Public Radio, bringing you high, strange guests from our Carnival of the Weird.
Tune in to the Gray Zone Uncensored, where nothing is black and white. Join Michelle Desrochers and Joe Montaldo on selected dates at Expect the Unexpected. Please check the website for upcoming dates. I'm Michelle Desrochers from the Outer Realm. Please listen to Amelia Pisano and I every Wednesday and Thursday nights at 8 to 10 p.m. Central and 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern.
The Delicious Recipe with your host, Adele, here on UPRN Radio 107.7 FM, New Orleans.
This is John DeSalvo, and I would like to invite you to join me and my co-host, Joe Montalvo, every Monday night from 5 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to our show, Science and Beyond. And we will be discussing the frontiers of science and new discoveries and topics that will take you to the ultimate of the cosmos. So please join us, and we look forward to seeing you on Monday.
This is Michelle Desrochers from the Outer Realm and the Gray Zone Uncensored, sending you all a little reminder to stop by the United Public Radio Network's YouTube channel and kindly show us your support by subscribing.
Hi, you've got to listen to ICAR, that's International Community for Alien Research, www.icar1.com. I should know, I'm Irish.
Hey, it's the Del of the Delicious Recipe here on UPRN 107.7 FM, New Orleans, Internet Talk Radio. Tune in Monday night, 7 Central, 8 Eastern for The Centralist with Joe Montando and UPRN host panel, blending into a recipe of the games people play and the conspiracy of disclosure. Listen on any platform where podcasts air or watch it live on YouTube. Become a member for a variety of extra bonus content from a vast collection of exciting hosts right here on UPRN 107.7 FM.
Tune in to UFO Undercover, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, with your host, Joe Montaldo, right here on the Paranormal Radio Network.
Back.
And we're back, and look who we found.
Hi.
Mr. Stephen Meyers. I'm so excited. I have just been like really excited for this show because I've always been intrigued with the Great Pyramid. I've been to the Great Pyramid. I've had, pretty interesting experiences, and the biggest mystery lies in how was it constructed? It seems to be, you mentioned the Pyramid of Giza, and people are just, yeah, it's fascinating. How do you think they did it? I don't know. So I'm interested in your theories, definitely. So I guess we should start off with your humble beginnings. Tell us about yourself and,
Well, a long time ago, it was a dark and stormy night, and I was born. That's where it all started. So, and then we'll fast forward all the way up to the recent past.
Yeah.
I have a very technical background in electronics and some other things, certificates, degrees, and all of that.
Right.
And I like history, so I like technology and history. So I like, in World War II, I like fighter planes and battleships, not really the leaders or the politics.
Right.
So the Great Pyramid is a technological wonder built in ancient times, a 45-story skyscraper.
Yeah, it
So
is.
my interest, like everybody, started to be involved with the Great Pyramid. So back when I started, they had things called libraries that people went to with
Yes.
wooden things that were like books. So I'd go to the library and read books by, Egyptologists, check them out and read them. And they told their stories about the big ramp, and all of that, and the strong back muscles that the
Yes.
workers had.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about the precision stone cutting done with hand tools, like a hammer and chisel. Boop, 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 boop,
Oh
boop.
my God!
And
You
then they
imagine how
did
long that would have
precision.
taken.
Well, that's a good question. But I read about that, but I learned something about Egyptology. They don't have any demonstrations. They don't engage in the scientific method. They've never made a casing stone in the manner they say working people did all day long. They've never moved a heavy stone like a 16-ton stone. They've never lifted one of those 1 inch, the entire science. But they say working people could do it. And of course, the biggest stones, 70-ton stones, they've never moved. So I, read a bunch of other alternative books about the Great Pyramid. That it was a death ray or a beacon for aliens so they can find their way back home or whatever. And a lot of other things.
Lots of theories.
Yeah, a lot of theories about the purpose of why, even biblical theories about the Great Pyramid and the Bible and all of that. But then I finally read a book called Pharaoh's Pump by Edward Kunkel, and he talked about the Great Pyramid in technical terms.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't talk about it in terms of like religion or the pharaohs or King's List, but he talked about how stones were moved from one place to the other and how the Great Pyramid was assembled. So it was very influential to me, and ultimately we started a foundation called the Pharaoh's Pump Foundation to further his work, and then ultimately he died in the 1980s, which is now quite a while ago. So anyway, we're furthering his work with our foundation, the Pharaoh's Pump Foundation. And anyway, that's where I've been, and that all of that has got me to this show.
Wow, well, I'm glad you made it to this show. Because I have to say I was very intrigued, because you hear about all the stuff, I touched on it a little bit just, to enlighten some of the folks that were listening, because we have a worldwide audience. So, we talked a little bit about the pyramid power theory and, how it was this big fad in the 70s and people really believe that it would, help you to enter into an alpha state of consciousness. And, if you were in the pyramid, and how provided health benefits and preserved food and sharpened razor blades, just a lot of crazy stuff, even though scientifically it's never been proven. But it was always like, well, okay, that's interesting. But it is one of those, it really is a wonder of the world, because it's just phenomenal. It's just, when I stepped on to the platform and I looked at this thing, I was just like, oh my gosh. And as I walked up into it, it is, you just look at it and how precise it is. Everything about it is just so precise. And it's like, there's no way that you could build a ramp and do this and get it this precise. And people, other theorists are like, oh no, they did it during, the fall equinox, and they were able to just use the sun. And I'm like, maybe. I don't know. It's just, nothing ever seemed to make any sense. So tell us about your theory, your research. So we know how you got interested, and, it must really be something for you to set up a foundation.
Well, it is. It really is. The Great Pyramid is the last remaining wonder of the world. It's got more masonry than all the cathedrals in Europe. All of the Middle Ages.
Wow.
All of that work. They did more work to build the Great Pyramid, and it's phenomenal. Like you say, it's otherworldly. Our ancestors, people like us, built that. But even the components are beyond human scale. The most of them are 2.5 tons, about the size of an automobile. But we don't build things that way, by lifting automobiles on top of each other, without any cranes or anything. But
do you feel there was extraterrestrial intervention?
The what now?
ET intervention, alien intervention.
Some say that, and the reason why they say that it appears the Great Pyramid is so ultra modern but from
Yes.
distant antiquity. There was no ornamentation, no formal writing, no statuary, no Book of the Dead that was in the Great Pyramid that we know of. Long open passages that have sliding stones. So you ask an Egyptologist, how do long open passages with sliding stones and doors on pivots, how does that protect the pharaoh's mummy? And no coherent answer is ever given. But we think that the Great Pyramid was built using water locks like those in the Erie Canal over near your area where you live. The Erie Canal was built in the 1830s.
That's right.
It was originally, pre-Civil War. It was originally 4.5 feet deep, but the barges could handle a payload of 70 tons. So in the 1830s, and they often had children work on the Erie Canal. In the 1830s, children could move 70-ton payloads. In the 21st century, Egyptologists that are experts, they can't do it. So we think they used water locks. Then the original builders were geniuses. They didn't have these strong back muscles.
Right.
And they were able to supply water to the building site. Many researchers think there's a profound link between water and the Great Pyramid, including Christopher Dunn. And that water at the Giza Plateau supplied water for these water locks that use a lot of water, but they also bring up stones on barges effortlessly. So that's...
Now, how far would the pyramid have been from the Nile at that time?
There's scholarly debate. When you say at that time, even when the Great Pyramid was built is under scholarly debate. The Nile has changed its flow or its location through the eons a number of times. So exactly where the Nile was compared to the Great Pyramid is under scholarly debate because we don't know exactly when the Great Pyramid was built. So
so that's interesting because
anyway, they were able, the Erie Canal goes from the Atlantic Ocean clear to the Great Lakes.
I know people have no idea that is actually a thing, but it's true. It does go all the way to the Atlantic. It's quite a trek.
It is. It's very sophisticated, and it lifts payloads higher than the height of the Great Pyramid in different elevations. So it also, not to talk about the Erie Canal, but it also moved the weight of the Great Pyramid higher than the height of the Great Pyramid in 2 years. So it's very fast.
It is.
Water locks are especially faster than Egyptologists because they haven't moved a 70-ton payload 1 inch so far. So that's fascinating. So anyway, they moved stones on barges from the Nile River all the way up to the building site effortlessly. The first stones that were set in place were the casing stones around the outside, the first level. And then they fill that with water, so you have a square pond. Those casing stones are cemented together watertight. And then they moved stones all the way up into that pond and set stones off of the barges into that pond. And when that pond was filled, the first layer of the Great Pyramid was completed.
Really?
Yes.
My God, it sounds like an endeavor of its own.
We have a video series on our website that
I did post your website.
Detail.
Yeah, I posted your website on our Outer Realm page so people can go and access everything.
Right, at thepump.org.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, we did that so people can go check out your videos, check out your books, check out the foundation information.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they can check everything out. We have our video series on the website, and that describes it in detail, exactly the entire process of building the Great Pyramid all the way up to the capstone. So I hope that helps with people to understand how visual this process is.
Yeah, because the thing is colossal. So as the stones start rising, I guess the water starts rising. Is that right?
It does. They added additional water to that pond, if you will, and built the Great Pyramid level by level from the bottom up, including the casing stones. And so Flanders Petrie and early Egyptologists felt that the sequence of stone placement was that it was built level by level, and the casing stones for each level was set in place first, and then the interior stones. So it was a systematic process that was done effortlessly and quickly, and they were able to extend the effort to build this mighty structure that still exists today.
So you say effortlessly and quickly. You look at this building, it kind of like, I don't see it. It's just so complicated. How many years? I mean, they say it took, 20 years to build? Do you agree with that theory, or do you think it was done quicker with your method?
The people that say it took 20 years or 25 even, that's their interpretation, are Egyptologists.
Yes.
But they can't even move a single casing stone 1 inch.
Right.
So I think that their explanation is very dubious, to say the least. And they can't even, they say how casing stones were made with extreme precision, but they can't make one. So that's bizarre. So no, I think the Great Pyramid was built very quickly.
Wow.
A ramp, even though the ramp idea doesn't work, would be only used about 10 or 12 hours a day during daylight. So all these workers could pack the stones and see what they're doing, although it doesn't work. So if you only work 10 hours a day, it would take 20 years. But that way it won't work. But water locks work 24 hours a day. And the precision stone placement of the interior passages and chamber stones and the casing stones, of course, would be done through the light of day. But the rest of the time, they would just, in a production line manner, move these stones one after another. So I think it might have taken half of the time that Egyptologists say. Maybe even people go ape crazy when I say this, maybe only 7 years, 7 or 8, 9 years.
Wow.
So why wouldn't they? They were geniuses. They're not going to take a whole lifetime to do this.
But with precision, I mean, you had no computers, no blueprint. Well, we assumed there was no, maybe they had their own form of blueprints, drones or anything modern. But yet they have this perfect structure.
It is very perfect. And it is so perfect that it's as perfect as and to a highest degree as a hydroelectric dam. They're built very perfectly. The largest dam in the United States is the Grand Coulee Dam. And when they dug down to bedrock, they used dental tools to clean the stone at the bottom so the cement would adhere to it so well. So just because a building is built quite perfectly doesn't mean that it's symbolic or religious by any means.
No.
Yeah, it is built it's as perfect as the Empire State Building.
Right.
It was built with precision for technical reasons.
Right. How is your research received by Egyptologists? Because it's, to them, it's pretty out there,
Well, it's there's been different theories about the Great Pyramid, and a lot of those have already been rejected, like the Great Pyramid Bible correlations, if you will.
Right.
That was really big 100 years ago, and the idea that the Great Pyramid was some sort of a granary, because the Bible talks about big buildings in Egypt that were granaries. So they said that the Great Pyramid was a granary. A person that ran for president of the United States just recently, Ben Carson, there was a film of him talking about the Great Pyramid being a granary. So some of these ideas die hard. But to Egyptologists, it's actually a wall of silence. They don't even say that I'm wrong. It's they've circled their wagons, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a science in crisis because their lack of using the scientific method to demonstrate some of the things that they say just working people could do.
Mm-hmm.
So sciences come and go. They taught phrenology, which is the science of the bumps on people's heads and how they relate to your character traits.
Yes.
Well, that science couldn't withstand the rigors of the scientific method, and it went away. And Egyptology is actually in crisis right now because I don't know anyone past the 8th grade that has looked into it, that believes the ramp theory or the precision stone cutting that by hand that can't be demonstrated. So no, they don't like it at all. But
I don't think they like anything that goes against the grain.
Ideas.
No, for sure. And I mean, in your opinion, it was still built to be a tomb, or was it some kind of a mechanical wonder sort of thing?
Well, there's several ideas about why the Great Pyramid was built. And that's, to me, that's very important. Some say, it was an alien beacon or a weapon or a tomb. That's what Egyptologists say. It doesn't look like a tomb. So because there's several chambers and the pharaoh only had one body. So they say, well, it's a tomb, but it doesn't look like a tomb. So there must have been a change of plans because it doesn't look like it. And anyway, but there's another direction of research that the Great Pyramid was some sort of a machine, that it was built at a high cost, but it had a return on investment, a huge return on investment. And that's what I think. I don't think it was a tomb at all. It was not a tomb, but that it was infrastructure for the civilization that built it. And it turned the desert into a garden, and it turned poverty into prosperity, this infrastructure. And it did that by being a massive water pump. And that's what I think the Great Pyramid was.
Well, yeah, I mean, you may not be far off because, I mean, they're using CGI imaging and they're finding all of these voids and anomalies inside, the structure. And there's really no explanation as to what they're doing there.
That's correct. There's the Great Pyramid is certainly very old, but it is ongoing research is occurring using some very sophisticated research methods. So what those voids are or any of that is up to scholarly debate. So it's certainly not a tomb by any means, and it provided a huge return on investment, I think, for the civilization that built it. It used some rather exotic properties of physics to create this water pumping wonder of the world that we call the pyramid.
Is this, I guess, one of those situations, and I'll ask the question, like many kings, do you think he just came along and claimed the structure for himself? Because let's face it, they just found another chamber under the pyramid. I know I've been into 2 chambers within the pyramid personally, and they just found the pharaoh's ship buried alongside of it, all dismantled beside the pyramid. So, how pharaohs like to just rename their predecessor's monument. Do you think, was this built before him? Did he come along and claim it as his own? Do you think it's maybe one of those situations? Because there does seem to be hints of burial stuff around it. Not that he built it, but by any means.
Well, it's a necropolis. There's a lot of tombs around on the Giza Plateau, but that doesn't mean the Great Pyramid is a tomb. All it means is the civilization or in that area thought that was a special place.
Right.
So just like in Israel, a lot of people around the world will try to be buried in Jerusalem, if you will.
Yes.
Not because Jerusalem is meant to be a tomb, but because it's a special place. And
it is.
There's examples of that.
Yes.
Those sun ships that are buried right next to the Great Pyramid, one was discovered in 1954.
Yes.
There was a twin just recently discovered that is being excavated and restored as we speak, which is amazing. We think those were used during the construction of the Great Pyramid, and they acted like boat cranes. They're actually quite large, huge, very big, and that they were like a crane, if you will. Workers would move to the front of the barge, which would tip it down, and then they would attach a stone on it with a rope to the front of the barge, and when the workers walked back, it was like a pivot. And they lifted the stone off the barge and set it into that pond I talked about. So we think it was part of the construction process. That's why they built it, so it could be taken apart. So when it was on that pond up high, and then when they didn't use them anymore, they could take them apart and entomb them, if you will, or store them in those holes in the ground.
Yes, that's phenomenal. Just the construction process. Never mind the monument, but the endeavor of just trying to get everything there would have been just monumental. Like just a huge feat.
It is. It is a huge feat of logistics. I'm sure that they were able to communicate. They had some high technology in terms of very strong bonding agent between the stones to make them watertight, and some rather remarkable stone cutting methods that Egyptology can't demonstrate. So yeah, they were a high-tech civilization that had a very major project with a big goal, and we think it had a huge return on investment. So it's fascinating. This whole thing.
It is. It's definitely eye-opening, because I think when I first started reading up on your theory, I was just like, my gosh, I said, this is one of those things that actually makes sense. And it just, piqued my curiosity. Because how long have you researched this stuff, extensively, or this extensively?
Well, a lot of people that look into it like you do say that it makes sense.
Yes.
It's compelling. That it's actually doable. And so both the construction system process, but also the purpose that it makes sense. Egypt, and people say, oh, it's got to be more than a water pump. Well, the largest structure in North America, the Grand Coulee Dam, pumps water for about 1.5 million acres in central Washington state. So it's interesting. The largest water pump in the world is in the Valley of the Nile. It's the Mubarak pumping station.
Oh, wow.
It's just recently been built, and it is something that people can look up. So Egypt has always needed water pumps in ancient times and in modern times.
Yes, well, they're definitely known for their engineering feats. I mean, all you have to do is look at the Aswan Dam and when they moved and moving this like huge structure just to make room for it. I never thought I would see the day, and I remember when they did that, I was just like, my gosh. So yeah, I mean, nothing is off limits. I know they even at one point had the theory that slaves built the pyramid, and then I think about 3 years after I was there, they uncovered a village at the base of the pyramids that showed that these people were actually employed, and they actually kept records of how much money they were paid to work. And I thought, see, there you go. What else are we not, like, what is hidden underneath that sand? So when you look at the pyramid, okay, we have an idea of how it was constructed now, but there's got to be something internally that makes this all work. It's a pump station, right? Should it not pump water? Should there not be wheels or devices or something, cogs, anything inside? Have they just not found it, or theory?
The Great Pyramid water pump is not as it originally was when it was operational. There's a lot of places where there were sliding stones that have been removed. In the antechamber between the top of the Grand Gallery and the King's Chamber, there's a good example of where sliding stones existed. And we think that the sliding stones and the doors on pivots that were written about in ancient times, first century historians, that type of thing, that those acted like check valves. In like some pumps operate with just the movement of water and by compressing air in chambers. One example is a hydraulic ram water pump. That's another thing people can look up. And it has a few moving parts, but ultimately pumps water. And we think that certainly the Great Pyramid is much more sophisticated than a hydraulic ram water pump. Those pumps have some disadvantages, but it's quite sophisticated. My second book about the Great Pyramid water pump is the Great Pyramid Prosperity Machine, and it talks in detail about all the passages and chambers and how the features function to facilitate the pumping of water. So it is quite an involved process, similar to describing a V8 engine. That's quite involved. So
very mechanical.
So it's quite mechanical with pressure and vacuum and some electrolysis and that type of thing. So my second documentary, which I don't have with me right now, but my second documentary has a lot of computer-generated animations, and the links, of course, are in my website.
Yes, I posted that so people can go in and maneuver a way around. Yeah, I was having a good time in there today. So why the chambers? You get into the King's Chamber. There's hieroglyphs on the wall. There's a sarcophagus sort of where just the shell. And like I said, I went into a whole other chamber underneath, and now they've just found yet another chamber underneath. What would these have been served? Like, what would they have been used for?
Well, all the chambers, we think, facilitated the pumping of water. We think water entered the upper end of the descending passage. That's not where you go into the Great Pyramid now. You go into
it's different.
that rough cut area. But the descending passage, we think water entered that and moved down the descending passage all the way to the subterranean chamber. That's an oddly shaped chamber with some irregular humps that are left in the bedrock. And those chambers make the water move in a very powerful whirlpool, like a vortex. Right. And we think that the water used the property of implosion that Victor Schauberger talked about. He was an Austrian naturalist who was conscripted by Adolf Hitler to build some wonder machines. So people can look up Victor Schauberger as well. But we think that implosion force caused water to move up through the Grand Gallery and up into the lower end of the descent, moved up to the Grand Gallery, and then electrolysis occurred in that chamber that separated water from the water into hydrogen and oxygen, so that those two gases are quite volatile. Yes. And we think that they were ignited, but the result of that was a powerful vacuum, which helped to lift water up in the Grand Gallery. And then water ultimately moved through the Queen's Chamber and the King's Chamber and out the King's Chamber vents, and then down through small vent-like passages that were in the casing stones that are now removed. And then it was moved to, the water went to the point of use. They could have made compressed air with it. Certainly irrigation, powered heavy machinery. And I see the Giza Plateau as originally an industrial site and a science center, more so than just a graveyard. So the people that built that Great Pyramid, that's what it was for. But maybe the Egyptian civilization came later and claimed the Great Pyramid as its own.
Do you figure it was an even more ancient civilization, like Lemurians, Atlanteans, something? I mean,
yeah, or
nature.
pre-Diluvian, or
yeah. Who knows?
Last catastrophe, pre-ice age.
Yes.
But that's a possibility, because it's, you can't demonstrate how the Egyptian civilization could build, though, it could do some of the technical requirements, even to build the components. So that's a possibility.
Yeah, that's why I think, that maybe the pharaoh came along and may not even have been functional at the time in his time, and figured, oh, this would be, a great burial spot. Because look at this magnificent wonder. I mean, how much of the pyramid was actually covered in sand at one point? I mean, it just kind of got laid to waste. I do have a question for you, and a comment. We have someone in the chat room, Zach Man is what he goes by, says he met you via Paranormal Soup and loves your research, and you have a lot to share, that's for sure, well researched. And wow. We have Jade Phoenix, and she says, her question to you is, do you think it was a power plant? Did they use it to have, hold on, sorry, I've got to read here. Did they use it to have like a gold cap? I'm not quite understanding. Well, let's just go with the first half of the question. Do you think it was used as a power plant?
Yeah, there's a term power plant that's associated with the Giza Plateau. Christopher Dunn wrote a book called The Giza Power Plant. And he's another researcher that has a technical orientation to the Great Pyramid. Certainly, I do think it was a power plant, but I think that it operated a little differently than Christopher Dunn contends it operated, and he thinks it operated differently than I do. So, but we both acknowledge the genius of the original builders, and we know that it served a function, a real purpose, instead of just being a pretty tombstone.
Right.
So, and then of course there is no capstone, so we don't know what it was made out of. So
yes.
Some people say it was gold, some crystal, some electrum.
Well, they knew it had a gold cap on it, but I imagine that would have been, the pharaoh could have added that just as a, and I mean, once you bury that in sand, it's going to go pretty quick. Somebody can walk right up to it and go, oh, I would be that guy. Yes.
But the pharaoh, we have different images of what the pharaoh is, but the pharaoh is a politician.
Yeah.
And when something good happens, let's say the economy is doing good, the politician takes credit for it.
Yes, of course.
And so if you live in a civilization that has this massive, fantastic wonder of the world, the leader is going to take credit for it and say, I did that, or I had the gods do that, or whatever.
Of course.
That's just human nature. So
it's just like their predecessors. They just erase the predecessor's name, and they just have their name put in, and they put their statues, and they add bigger and better to the existing. And
or they recarve the Sphinx, to suit the next leader. So who knows?
Well, see, that's a curiosity, because they've said the Sphinx has got to be, they figure it's dated about 10,000 years as opposed to more recent. Do you think that the Great Pyramid is around the same era, which would definitely validate a civilization that would be pre-Egyptian?
Well,
that would lend to your theory.
Egyptologists are stuck to the idea that it was built the Sphinx was built about the same time as the Great Pyramid, within a few generations.
But didn't they just test that now? Didn't they just test that recently?
Well, no. Dr. Robert Schoch, a brilliant geologist.
Yes.
Who is I've met him, and he's brilliant. Yeah. But he says because of the water erosion on the Sphinx, that it puts the date of the construction of the Sphinx way back, possibly before the last ice age, or in other words, 12,500 years ago.
Wow. Wow.
That lends credence to
Yes.
the idea that the Great Pyramid was built contemporaneous with the Sphinx. So it's not unreasonable to say, in contrast to what Egyptologists say,
yes,
that the Great Pyramid may be much older than the civilization accredited to have built the Great Pyramid.
That's where I was going with it, thinking if they figured that would be, then that would lend to your theory that they were, that they could have been built considerably earlier than the Egyptian period.
True.
So
that's a possibility, a distinct possibility.
Now,
but the focus of my research isn't when it was built or who built it, but how it was built
and its function. Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay, they're keeping what's underneath the Sphinx hush. Jade says, I think the world isn't ready to know the true answers, so they're keeping it to themselves. Well, do they? Is it the fact that they're hiding it, or they just don't know? Like you say, Egyptologists seem to be very sketchy on, they just don't want to step outside the box, so to speak, because it would somewhat rewrite history. And I would imagine that would be a whole lot of trouble to start changing all the history books.
Well, Egyptology has certainly stagnated in the last 100 years. It's hardly changed at all, which is unusual for a science. All other sciences, math, physics, even metallurgy, everything is in a revolution of understanding. But Egyptology has stagnated into almost a mystery religion. Its origins was from tomb robbers. The genesis of Egyptology is people that stole things out of graves.
That's right.
And now it's much more refined because a university or a museum will pay for a dig, and then they take the artifacts to the museum for people to pay to look at them. So, but it's much more genteel now, but they still take things out of graves. So
they do.
I live in Oregon, and I hope doesn't become a science called the Oregonologists that come and rob my grave in 100 years.
Oh, you won't find mine.
but Egyptologists is very stagnated and not open to new ideas. I would say that it's not beyond them to hide artifacts, to misrepresent artifacts like the Baghdad battery, which people have made replicas, and it makes electricity. The Baghdad battery actually works. Egyptologists say, oh no, that's a religious artifact and wasn't really used for anything. It's just strange. I don't know how that science can get away with it.
Well, I mean, you also see like the Smithsonian that's hidden the bones of giants, and now they're finding giants all over the world. You can't hide them all.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know all the details, but I wouldn't put it past them.
I know. I think it's just a matter of, I guess somewhere along the lines, somebody in these positions of power decide, no, the world isn't ready for it. No, it goes against what, let's say, religion would preach. And, it's just, people will panic. I don't know. I think people are given enough credit, as to what we can handle with the information that we're given, and a lot is held back.
That's what we think, but the powers that be have a different opinion. They want to set the whole scenario up to fit their wants, needs, and desires. And like I say, the whole world and all sciences are in a revolution of understanding. And things are going to change. It's scary for some, certainly, but things are changing for the better, and it's a wonderful time to live right now. Even though it's this 2020, it's a wonderful time to live as a researcher and book author.
Yes. No. Yeah. I agree. Zachman says that leads to a whole other debate. Acquiring artifacts from tombs considered to be grave robbing, even the name of academic research. No, I agree. I actually had a friend who, have you ever heard of the Niagara Falls Museum of Oddities, which went back to the 1800s? Well, A gentleman that I knew, because he's now passed away, along with partners, purchased it. And when they purchased it, there were 8 mummies, Egyptian mummies in it. And he had them all in his possession. I filmed a TV show, with him, and I saw 2 of the mummies. And the reason that the other 6 were not there, he said, I sold them to a museum in Atlanta. And I went, oh, okay. And he said, and you know what they found? And I said, well, no. And he said, they found a mummy, a royal mummy, because of the way the hands go, right? And it was Ramses the First.
Oh, wow.
And he says, I had no freaking idea I owned Ramses the First because I just thought I had a bunch of mummies. And anyway, it turned out that Ramses got, a passport in his name, and the museum in Atlanta contacted Dr. Zahi Hawass, who went in and immediately said, yes, I can tell that's from the Ramses family. And they got all kinds of perks and benefits because they redonated the mummy. It went home to Egypt as a royal mummy. So who knows where they are? Back in the 1800s, this was a thing. People were buying this stuff up all over the place.
Yeah, they were. There was a fascination for anything Egyptian in the 1800s. They even used ground up mummies for medicine.
Yes.
So it's things change, and different ideas come and go, and sciences come and go. So I think again, a revolution of ideas, and things will be much different.
Wouldn't it be interesting if there were pieces of your pump somehow made its way out into the public somewhere? Things that may have made this thing tick.
It'd be nice, yeah. Additional, artifacts. Most of everything that could have been taken was taken, in antiquity.
Yes.
The mechanisms and that type of thing. Early mythology about the Great Pyramid says that they had armor that, in there, and things that lit up and everything else, different myths in the Muslim era, early.
Yeah.
So, but who can give credence to much of that? So
you just don't know.
You just don't know. So, but we all have the same direct physical evidence at the Giza Plateau, and all researchers, scientists, archaeologists, historians, and Egyptologists provide interpretations of what that evidence means. So. Some of that is better than others.
It's funny because it just seems like it's such a logical explanation as to why it would exist. But I think everybody's looking to the stars. So how does your findings about all this, how do you fit in the fact that the pyramids are actually aligned with certain star constellations? Does it contradict your theory at all? Does it work with your theory?
Well, there are people now that say that there's correlations between the Great Pyramid and other things with stars and that type of thing. But I think that that is certainly in vogue, and it's in effect the second correlation theory associated with the Great Pyramid. The first one is Great Pyramid Bible correlations. People come up with what are precise correlations that they engineer or whatever between, like, the Great Pyramid and the birthplace of Jesus, and they come up with the pyramid inch to confirm Bible prophecy and that type of thing. But a lot of that they're correlations, but they don't have causation to validate them, if you will. The Great Pyramid, they say about these vents pointing to stars, but because of the precession of the equinoxes, the sky moves 1 degree every 72 years. So the vents are not pointing to those stars. No. So you have 2 pieces of evidence.
Yes.
The vents are pointing up, and the vents are not pointing to stars. So you can interpret that by saying maybe they were telling us in a symbolic way that the Great Pyramid has nothing to do with Orion. But you can make up any interpretation if you don't have causation, if you will.
Right.
So
because
it's
a pump would
problematic.
need the vents, right? It would need the vents to function.
Well, it would need causation or something to validate this correlation that people have come up with.
Right.
And just as the Bible Great Pyramid correlations have been rejected by most people, except religious zealots, because the Bible Great Pyramid correlations don't have any causation, if you will. They're not stuck together. Same is happening with the Orion correlation theory. They've come up with these correlations and they're precise, but precision in and of itself doesn't validate a correlation. There's a precise relationship between the number of pirates and the global warming. You need to look that up. And they have charts and graphs. The less pirates there are through the years, the higher the Earth temperature. Okay.
Right.
But there's no correlation between that. There's a website called Spurious Correlations that compare like the number of drownings with the number of movies Nicolas Cage was in. The math is impeccable, but they're comparing two things that aren't related, or the number of divorces compared to the consumption of butter. But I don't know, some of these ideas, and then you talk to people that believe these correlations. You ask them, well, can a Great Pyramid correlation be wrong? And it's hard to get an answer, So if a Great Pyramid correlation can't be wrong, then can it be valid? And how do you validate it?
No, it's true. It's very difficult. Very difficult.
And then some people say, oh no, it's not Orion, it's Sirius. Or they draw lines on, especially now with computers, everybody draws lines on the Giza plateau on their computer and think that
everything looks so complicated, but yet I think you need to go back to basics.
You do need to go back to basics. Also, the Orion correlation theory supposedly understands the esoteric purposes, from the mind of the builder and that type of thing, but they can't address how stones were moved from one place to another. So I think that is another shortcoming of that theory.
Oh,
but,
I agree.
So they can't address that.
No.
Why not?
And apparently they're not ready to address it, even though they have the information.
Their research method is to see what points to something else and then say it's significant. So it is in vogue, the Orion correlation theory, but there's a lot of detractors from that theory, mainly because of the kind of the flawed research methods used to come up with these correlations. All hydroelectric dams have passages that point to stars. Isn't that interesting?
That is very interesting. There we go.
Anything that points up points to stars. So
that's right. Yeah. But the fact that they're up there is kind of pointing anywhere up there is kind of interesting.
Right. And then there's no place in the sky that doesn't have stars.
That's right.
So, I mean, in science, when you study something, you want to reduce the variables. But in the Orion correlation theory, they want to increase the variables so they can come up with more correlations. Ask someone who believes in these correlations, what can't the Great Pyramid be compared with? So they compare
for sure.
with everything.
And not all pyramids. I mean, there were many pyramids that predated the Great Pyramid. So what made them go, oh, you know what, we love the shape? Is it an energy thing, like the whole pyramid power thing? Or, why this specific shape when there's so many of them? There's over 100 pyramids throughout Egypt.
There are a lot of pyramids. If you don't have steel to work with and you're trying to build a tall structure out of masonry, it has to be big at the bottom and little at the top. So that, that's a universal truth.
Yes, but because all these pyramids throughout the country, you've got one.
But the Great Pyramid, I think that it was built as a pyramid, which kind of looked like 4 dams back to back, impounding water in the middle. And our video series describes why the Great Pyramid is in a pyramid shape. So
guys, just go over to Yeah, go to the Outer Realm page and you can find the website and click on that. I have a couple more comments here. Wayne says the battery idea makes a great deal of sense when you look at all the artwork in some of the deep sorry, were you talking to your phone? Some of the deep chambers, tombs throughout Egypt, even the use of mirrors couldn't reflect that far. They found no evidence of what I'm sorry, you
So
are talking to your phone and I don't understand everything you're
I
saying.
do. I know what he's saying.
Yeah, the lamp. So the idea of the electric light sort of definitely has some potential for being a factual thing. Okay, all those words are just together. They're not
Yeah,
separate.
I know exactly what he's saying.
Oh, thank
There
God.
is a hieroglyph that you've seen it. It looks like a big,
Light bulb.
like a light bulb, and it
Yes.
could be like a Crookes tube.
Yeah.
So it could have been used to. It has like wires and everything, and it could have been used. It's hard to say to make light, and these batteries would have been powering that light. But the one thing that makes the Baghdad battery seem plausible is
Mm-hmm.
because real people really made Baghdad batteries that really work. They engaged in the scientific method, and their
Right.
demonstration lends credence to that artifact being a battery. In
Right.
contrast, Egyptology declares an edict that they were able to drag stones up a ramp without handling scars
Mm.
and set them in place to perfection. The heaviest stones weigh as much as an Abrams A1 tank or a steam locomotive. So all you got to do is get a big steam locomotive that weighs
Mm-hmm.
70 tons, take the wheels off, drag it up a big ramp, and people like me will shut their mouths and go back into the woodwork. But Egyptology will not engage in the scientific method. They just tell stories and validate their stories by their authority. And the only other organization that validates their stories by authority is religion.
You betcha. I'm glad you said it, not me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I on my YouTube channel, I have a video that asks the question: is Egyptology a pseudoscience? And it's 20 minutes long or whatever. And you
That
can go
could
to my
be.
YouTube channel and watch it. And
Maybe it's becoming a pseudoscience.
I think it is. I think
I
it's
don't know that it started out that way, you know.
evolving into a cult, and that's why it's in crisis.
Yeah.
It's going to be a religion, not a science.
No, you're not wrong. I think the idea of science and in any field that you're in, it's about the discovery, the journey to discovery, sharing of ideas and moving forward, not moving backwards and staying in the dark ages because it just doesn't suit. And I'm sure it's not all like that. I'm sure there's archaeologists everywhere right now saying that's ridiculous. And hey, I'm not an archaeologist. I'm just bouncing ideas around. But it just seems to me like you have a really plausible theory here that seems to make more sense than many of the theories that I've heard.
Well, I appreciate that. People reject this direction of research out of hand. A lot of people, those are Egyptologists that don't have any blisters on their hands or anything.
Yeah.
But people that are truck drivers that actually do move heavy objects, or people that work in shipyards, or car mechanics, or people that that are in the Navy, those people that are actually in the real world, instead of Egyptology. Yeah, it's compelling, especially watching the video series on our website, how stones were moved efficiently and quickly. So I appreciate that. And those kind words, I needed that. I get a lot of.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm totally for new discoveries. I mean, that's what makes it, fascinating is that sometimes you have to let the next generation come through and give it a shot. I've recently connected with somebody who's going to be coming on the show who has an amazing collection of ancient artifacts. He said they just seem to have made their way to me. I acquired them, but trying to get people now to come in and say, hey, yes, this is a real thing, because he's not an archaeologist. So maybe it's the same situation with you. You're not an archaeologist. You're not part of the club sort of thing. So they're not taking your theories seriously.
That's true. A guy named Wagner, who was a weatherman, if you will, came up with the idea of continental drift in the 1930s. And geologists, no continental drift. There's no mechanism to make the continents move. Doesn't exist. You know, you're a weatherman. You can't do it. You know, you can't even discuss geology in effect. And essentially, after about 30 years, geologists came up with plate tectonics, which was exactly the same thing. They changed the name. So it's quite funny. Yeah, it happens. All revolutionary ideas come from outside of the organization. Yes. There was a botanist named Alexander Fleming, and he, through some of his research, he said, I can make sick people well with bread mold. And he made penicillin.
Penicillin, yes.
But the medical community said, oh, no, it doesn't work, or we don't need it, or it's too expensive, or you're a botanist. You can't even say anything about medical. But ultimately, the military was a big mover and shaker in the distribution of penicillin and sulfur drugs, because they knew a whole bunch of people were going to need medical care. So science oftentimes advances funeral by funeral. And and then another way to look at it, they discovered the Piltdown skull. Oh, okay. It's right there. The leading anthropologists wrote their doctoral thesis on the Piltdown skull for a whole generation. And they couldn't even see the file marks on that skull, which are visible today. Right. Well, they all agreed that the Piltdown skull was a missing link, but it took 40 years or for all those anthropologists to die off. And the next generation came up and said, oh, no. The Piltdown skull is a forgery. But nobody changed their mind. Isn't that interesting? Neither generation changed their mind. So that's it. You know, it's I'm in this for the long haul, if you will.
Well, I think you have to, because otherwise, I think if you were to stop now, I think the research would just go to the wayside, because I don't think there'd be anybody, at least from the other side, that would come in and say, oh, hey, mind you, if you do, and you know what's going to happen is one day you're going to pass away and they're going to say, hey, we've just discovered that.
Yeah, that might happen. But it does take generations for new ideas to catch hold. Edward Kunkel, who much of this theory is based on, and I've dedicated my first book to Edward Kunkel, and my second book has a whole chapter about him.
Yes.
He did much of his research in the 1930s, published his first book, self-published it in 1962.
Wow.
So that's what, 60 years?
Yes.
And people are just now hearing about it. So, it's tough to get the word out. I really appreciate people like you that let me get on the show and talk about this alternative idea about the Great Pyramid. So,
hey, I like your idea so much. I got you coming back.
Oh yeah. We have another one scheduled.
We do.
So, yeah.
We absolutely do. Zachman says, he goes, I work for a delivery company, and if we had the kind of technology you're talking about, it would make my job a lot easier. So I can imagine. So, I mean, I think this theory is, like I said, I think it's really plausible. And you talk about it being a lost technology that was used, and how do you think, like, the technologies, you pluralize it, what in breakdown are the lost technologies, and can they be rediscovered and be made to be used again?
There's a number of lost technologies associated with the Great Pyramid. I titled my book "Lost Technologies of the Great Pyramid"
Yes.
for that reason. Water locks are not a lost technology, but what's lost is the understanding that they were used in building the Great Pyramid. But there's other lost technologies, cutting stone with extreme precision on a large scale. That would be very valuable in modern times. So that's a lost technology. The stones of the Great Pyramid, the precision cut stones, are cemented together, watertight, with a very strong bonding agent that's known for being stronger than the stone itself. Wow. That technology would be handy. The ultimate gorilla glue. So
sure would.
And it's not just plaster to help slide the stones on top of one another. It's a very unique lost technology, and certainly they probably had other technologies that we don't know about, communication, organization, that type of thing. But also they probably had technologies in terms of science and industry, generation of electricity, and medical science.
Oh yeah.
So there's a whole host of things, and ancient cultures around the world have a lot of high technologies. Aspirin is derived from plants that they would chew on the leaves in South America, and we've synthesized that. So the witch doctor would say, take these leaves and see me in the morning.
That's
so
right.
So is aspirin a high technology? Well, I don't know. They also did terrapanning or brain surgery in South America.
Yes, so, and Egypt as well.
Yeah, and why they did it it's hard to know, if they were brain tumors or if they were. If you touch the brain with like a probe, you can elicit hallucinations. So maybe they were doing some
ayahuasca,
something really strange.
No, that's true.
From the skulls, you can see that a lot of them survived the brain surgery. They remodeled, if you will, and so just a whole our agricultural high technologies in South America. So yeah, it's amazing. There were no primitive cultures, and all civilizations had geniuses. Like we had, Nikola Tesla, Victor Schauberger, a few others that were geniuses. So that's what happened. What happened a long time ago is on the Giza Plateau, there was a leader that says, I want to improve my civilization. So he got all of his experts around him, and they said, well, you need this big structure, this big water pump. So he authorized the use of a lot of resources, and he had this building built, and it provided a huge return on investment. It made the civilization stronger, better, and more powerful. That's why we build a highway system, or have our mail system, or have the World Wide Web, or the power grid, hydroelectric dams. So all of that infrastructure provides prosperity, and the Great Pyramid provided prosperity. The High Aswan Dam, a leader got the funding from the former Soviet Union, who funded the High Aswan Dam.
Wow.
And then they built it, much bigger than the Great Pyramid, about more than 20 times bigger. But there was a huge investment that had a huge return on investment. So, that's the way it works. And that's what they did. And but Egyptologists, who are like a hammer, and if you're a hammer, everything is a nail.
That's right.
And if you're a tomb robber and you see a building, let's go rob the mummy out of there.
Yes.
And they literally say, the reason why there's no mummy in the Great Pyramid is it was stolen in antiquity before us Egyptologists could steal it.
What?
So
Yeah.
so that's and then they say that proves that it was a tomb because there's no evidence. But the Great Pyramid, Sir Flanders Petrie found Nile earth inside the Great Pyramid, the passages and everything, which is sediment. And that's kind of interesting for this royal tomb.
Yes.
And Herodotus described the Great Pyramid as being like an island surrounded by water. And the Great Pyramid, up until the 18th century, had a wall around it. And Egyptologists say that's to keep the unwashed masses away from this sacred building. But we think it was part of the construction process, this wall around the Great Pyramid. So we all have the same evidence, but there's different
ideas.
Yeah.
To you best of your knowledge, is this the only pyramid in the world that was used as a water pump? Because they show that there are a lot of these ancient cultures connected around the world, because they see a lot of similar, I guess, evidence or structures or monoliths or that are pretty much very similar all around the world. They all have very, very strict similarities. Have you discovered anything like that? Have you guys made it that far yet to reach out and see if anyone else has done this?
Well, the focus of my research is how and why a specific building was built, the Great Pyramid. Yes. But there are similarities, around the world, but some of those could be caused just because they're similar people.
Yes.
That respond to similar type of symbols and that type of thing.
Right.
And wherever you are around the world, if you want to build a tall building with masonry, even if you've never heard of another civilization, that building will be big at the bottom, small at the top. So, and then other pyramids, like South American pyramids, many of those are made of rubble, if you will, and have different designs, different interior designs.
So it would be a lot harder to put water through that sort of a structure.
Yeah, there's not a magic bullet with pyramids that have been built around the globe in terms of having the same purpose.
No, it's a curiosity because sometimes civilizations, they migrate, they move, and you've got this technological wonder, and it's sort of like, wow, could they have, if let's say I'll use Atlantis as an example, let's say they were in there and they constructed this thing, 10,000 years ago, and then Atlantis sinks and the civilization moves, they would in turn create another structure because it worked for them here. So let's, kind of move it along and do the same thing, maybe on a smaller scale. But it's a curiosity because if another sort of structure was found, it would really lend credence to your theory, I think. Can we shake the foundation of Egyptology? I don't know.
It would. But a lot of people, they say, well, here's another pyramid that's definitely not a water pump.
Right.
So that means the Great Pyramid is not a water pump. Well, that's kind of a faulty reasoning. Because let's say that there's a car wreck that had two people that got killed in it. Well, I could say, oh, well, there's this other car wreck that nobody got killed in it. So those people didn't get killed. So, but a lot of people do say, well, what about the other pyramids? My research isn't about
the other pyramids.
If the other pyramids are or are not water pumps, my research is about the Great Pyramid being a water pump, but probably other pyramids with different quality of design and different materials. I'm not saying every pyramid was a water pump.
No, of course not. I'm just saying, wouldn't it be phenomenal if you found another one?
It would be, but people that don't think the Great Pyramid is a water pump would say, well, you got two pyramids that aren't water pumps. So, I don't know how much it would help.
No, I'm just going to do a quick station ID. So you are listening to the Outer Realm Radio on United Public Radio Network. And just a big thank you to Folgers Coffee, who do partially sponsor tonight's show. Thank you, Folgers. And we're back. So, okay, yeah, that is definitely that's definitely interesting. I just keep thinking, if you find another one, it lends a little bit of credence, because then at least an Egyptologist could say, okay, you know what, there is another one in the country, or better yet, if you had one, let's say in South America, the archaeologists there might look at it differently than, like, Egyptology. They just seem to be really bloody stubborn and staunch. It's just like they're a club. Part of the club.
Very, very dogmatic, and they
Yes.
they don't work well with others, to say the least. They don't work well with stonemasons and other researchers. So yeah, they are very dogmatic. Egyptology is the biggest hindrance to understanding ancient Egypt. That's what I think.
Shame.
Yeah.
I think Dr. Hawass tried to really expand on a lot of stuff. He had so many projects going, and finally, I think he just got really frustrated.
Well, it's tough. He a lot of people badmouth him, including myself. But he's the most famous Egyptian in the world right now, and he was under some constraints himself. He's promoting his Egyptology's mindset, if you will, but also issues with tourism.
Yes.
Whatever makes the most money.
Yes.
That's the truth. So Egypt, there's abject poverty in Egypt. So, I can't begrudge anybody or what anybody's doing. And that type of thing. So, but
I saw that firsthand. Just doling out a lot of money.
It's tough.
You have to do what's best for the people, right?
Right.
Which is what I think lends to your theory. Again.
Yeah. Egypt, the Great Pyramid right now is a functioning machine. It's a machine that generates money
in a different way. Yeah.
Through tourism.
That's
but
right.
The original builders used it to generate prosperity through pumping water. So, we were going to go on a tour, myself and
tell us about that. What was the tour going to entail?
Yeah, well, it was going to be like a 13-day tour.
Wow.
And we had to cruise on the Nile and go everywhere to the Giza Plateau, the Old Cairo, Sekhmet's Temple, and Luxor, the statues of Mammon, those great big statues. We were going to do it all. But because of coronavirus, it was canceled. So hopefully next year, that other person who was Barbara Jean Lindsay, we would have made a great pair, because she's much more of the spiritual side and I'm more of the technical side. And it would have been a wonderful tour.
Right.
She's a sweet lady. Barbara Jean Lindsay at barbarajeanlindsay.com.
And what's her take on all of this? Being more spiritual. How do you complement one another in research?
Enough to it that we would join forces and go on this tour together. But again, this crazy year, it was canceled. So hopefully we can reschedule this extensive tour. I left the itinerary up on the website.
Yes, I saw that there.
Yeah. So, but indicated that it was canceled. So hopefully we can work something out together with her, or even with another tour guide. Hint, hint.
Yeah.
So if you know of any tour guides or anyone that wants to lead a tour, and it would have been, it would have been not real formal. It would have been very low key, and we would have time at these temples to do whatever we wanted to, contemplate or pray or whatever you needed to do. But we would see a lot of cultural, wonders. So, but it was not to be. So, but hopefully, there's always next year.
Not yet. I have a lot of different colleagues that do make the pilgrimage out to Egypt. With tours for different things. I mean, I have a a gentleman who was just on last week, Mr. Freddie Silva. He's just where he works with portals and sacred spaces, and he's had profound experiences. They go there and have amazing experiences. But again, it's just that whole pyramid power thing. Do you think there's something as to the shape of the pyramid that not only made it work technologically speaking, but because your colleague, she works from a spiritual side of things. Is there something to it?
Well, it's hard to say. That's not the focus of my research, but other people do, and there are proponents to pyramid power and also detractors. So I don't know. I think the Great Pyramid was much more tangible in its purpose.
Water amplifies energy.
It does, but also water also grows food so your kids can eat every day.
Yes.
We're in a civilization we're immersed in prosperity, so we don't, but other people, even in the Pacific Northwest, it was dry desert in eastern Washington. Well, they put that Grand Coulee Dam in, and now they can irrigate in perpetuity that dry land, and most people eat apples and fruit that have been irrigated by pumped water, but say, oh no, we don't need water pumps. So it's interesting. So, but hopefully next year we can do another tour. It was booked up too, but we had to cancel it. Travel restrictions and other issues, and it was a wise decision as things played out. But
yeah, I understand that they've opened up the borders again, at least for now. So it's so hard to say what it's going to be like come February, mind you. If we're going to be back in COVID jail or not, or just,
yeah. But when we canceled the tour, there was some talk of if you go to Egypt, you'd have to be quarantined for 2 weeks and that type of thing.
You're there a month by the end of it, right?
Quite problematic for, and they need their tourism, and
they do.
And you've been there, I've been there.
Yes.
I tell people I'm a kind of a fiscal conservative, which means I'm a cheap guy. And but if you gotta go in debt to go to Egypt, do it, because it's worth it. And I don't normally tell people to go in debt, but go see it. I mean, there's no place like it on earth. The people are wonderful, friendly. And they've been accommodating tourists for 5,000 years.
Very welcoming.
Herodotus was in effect a tourist.
Yes.
And so it's fantastic. The sights, the sounds, the food, and it's just a different world, and very very accommodating, very open to tourists, if you will, as opposed to other Middle Eastern countries that aren't. So
they are, and they're very forthcoming with discussing their belief systems. Historically speaking, I always found it interesting because the younger generations, I remember one time asking about Tutankhamun's The Curse, and the older generation was like, oh, no, don't want to go there. You don't want to do this. They were very superstitious. The younger generation was just like, oh, don't even worry about that. They're so laid back. Meanwhile, you walk into the tomb and end up getting hit with something, but it's just like, it's just both sides of the spectrum. But,
True. Also, for a we're from the United States, so they're a foreign country, but they all speak English, pretty much.
Yeah, it's true.
So I imagine if so when we're there, they'll all speak English. Then the next tour is from Germany. They'll all speak German. You get my drift?
No, I know.
So they know like 5 languages, and people in America know one, hopefully.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. So hopefully that will work out. We can do a tour and maybe do more than one. I know the interest is high.
Yes.
For some new ideas, not just something pointing to something, or slaves with the back muscles. People want new ideas, and they're not satisfied with all that anymore.
I think they love new ideas, but it's also a different perspective. Like you're coming in, I could tour Egypt, and see the same thing, but I'll learn something different every time because of the person conducting the tour.
Oh,
But
yes.
but I mean, here you are, you're off, so you can be writing books, doing more research. Let's expand a little bit on your foundation. How is it funded? Where do the funds go? And, what do you focus on the most right now? I mean, you've done a lot of legwork. Where do you go from this point?
We do have a nonprofit foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit foundation called the Pharaoh's Pump Foundation. You can look us up in our website, thepump.org.
Yes.
Talks about our mission statement, our goals and activities. We have a board of directors. We have a library. We have a facility, like a little more elaborate than a workshop, but a facility to do some experimentation that we're working on. But we have pro bono legal counsel, advisors, co-researchers. So it's so we got a little bit going on.
Yeah.
But we've conducted enough research that I've compiled it into both 2 books and 2 documentaries. But the primary function of our nonprofit foundation is to redevelop this ancient technology, this ancient water pumping technology, to help our modern but very troubled world. It's a non-polluting, environmentally friendly water pumping alternative instead of using hydroelectric dams, which have an adverse environmental impact, nuclear or fossil fuel facilities to be able to pump water to generate electricity. So
here's a big question. Do you think they'll ever let you, the powers that be, the money-making machine, do you ever think they will let you get to that point because it is cost efficient and it would benefit everybody?
Yeah, it would be a decentralized system to generate electricity. You don't need a big stone pyramid. You could use polypropylene containers and off-the-shelf valves. But that's a real question that you're asking. There is a guy named Stephen Meyer, Meyer, spelled different, Stephen, who had a water-powered car, and he had a meeting with some people in a restaurant, and he jumped up and said they poisoned me, staggered out of the restaurant and died.
Wow!
And he had a water-powered car, so that is the most famous suppression of some developed technology. So people can look him up, but it's a real question. But the development of this ancient technology is our most funding intensive activity. So it takes some people need to donate materials, expertise, and that type of thing. So we're struggling with funding, to be honest with you. In some ways, it's hard
a funky
sell.
year also, though, right?
Yeah, it's a funky year, but it's a hard sell to some people, like corporate sponsors, that type of thing. But if we had like an angel sponsor, like the guy that owns Amazon or Bill Gates or whatever, that would be wonderful. But that hasn't happened yet. So we're plugging along, slow but sure, and hopefully we can redevelop this water pumping technology. Every day, twice as many people die from malnutrition and from not being able to irrigate their farmland than died on 9/11. So
it's sad.
We want it is
Here's
sad.
what you have in your favor, that people are looking to go back, to the basics. Some people are going off the grid. Some people are trying to do, they want to grow their own food.
Yes.
They want to just go off someplace on their own and be able to be self-sufficient and sustain themselves and get off the merry-go-round, I guess, is the best way to put it. I think you have that in your favor. And I mean, hopefully somebody's listening tonight that's just saying, you know what? This is what we do. We help people do stuff like this. Maybe this is something that warrants our attention, because from what you're saying, I mean, this has a whole lot of benefits to it, and it would be useful to a lot of people. I, for one, would be interested. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be useful to a lot of people that could make it using cottage industries and like barrels and pipes and that type of thing. But also in the first world to generate electricity, instead of the environmentally very adverse methods we use to generate electricity. That's what you could use to pump water for. So it's there's a whole host of advantages and applications for this water pumping technology that we're trying to develop. And it's been a fun ride. It's been very interesting. First of all, it was a hobby, and then a passion, and now it's a life quest. And so I've met a lot of people, traveled the world with this, and it's been interesting. And hopefully we'll be able to help people both understand our ancient ancestors a little better, but also to understand the technology that they already had and develop that for modern times. So that's kind of what we're about.
It's fascinating because that's a really ancient technology. It wouldn't even have been a thought in my mind had I not stumbled onto your research, and that just came up in an article. Like, what is this? So it's just mind blowing to me, because I love, and I've always excelled in ancient history and architecture and things like that. I just
so have I.
Right?
But again, lots of ancient technologies, even not the Great Pyramid, but they had C-sections, birth control, a whole bunch of things in ancient Egypt, and probably before. So it's amazing,
So tell everybody how they can get your books and how they can find you. As we're nearing the end of the show, I want to get you to get whatever you want to say to everybody, whatever you want them to know, and the stage is yours.
Well, I wrote 2 books. Lost Technologies of the Great Pyramid is my first book, and it is about how the Great Pyramid was assembled. And my second book is titled The Great Pyramid Prosperity Machine, and it's why the Great Pyramid was assembled. So both of those books are available from Amazon in softcover or ebook format. And then I've also produced 2 documentaries that are also available from Amazon.com. And both of those documentaries are available from Amazon in DVD format. So all the links to everything is at thepump.org, which includes the links to my books, documentaries, and YouTube channel, Facebook page. So they can go to the website and contact me through email, and they can decide on, if they want to ask a question or get involved.
I like it. And I just checked the date. You were back on May 20th. So if anybody has any questions, you can fire them off, to the outer realm, and we can go ahead and compile those questions. So Zach says, love the show. It was awesome seeing you again, Steve. Keep up all the good work you do. Have a good night, everyone. Night, love and light to Zach. Wayne says, great show. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and experiences with us all. And it really was a pleasure having you on and just talking about all of this and blowing my mind.
Well, thank you. We talked about a lot of stuff, but the books go into great detail about the whole research. So I hope people will read the books and then make an assessment about the information the books contain.
Yes, I hope so. And then we can there's going to be a test when Stephen comes back.
And we will see you again later next year.
May 20th. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So thank you and have a wonderful Christmas. And we will see you in May. All right. Thank you, Stephen.
Bye now.
Bye-bye now. Well, we've come to another fantastic segment here on The Outer Realm. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. And wow, all I can say is wow. So thank you to our special guest, Stephen. Thank you to our producer, Joe Montaldo, for working his magic behind the scenes. And we'd love to extend a huge thank you to Folgers Coffee for partially sponsoring tonight's show. Please remember to stop by the United Public Radio YouTube channel and subscribe and get a membership. Make yourself privy to information that's just not so easily found that you could only get through having a membership. If you'd like to see a specific guest or topic on the show, please email us at theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. So tune in next week for more amazing guests. Wednesday night brings Rosemary Ringer aboard as we talk about angels, something nice and light before Christmas. And on Thursday, we have nothing because it's Christmas Eve. So we're going to be silent. But Joe Montaldo will be online as he will be doing his own interview. The last show of the year will be December 30th with Kathleen Ann Ball. This is going to be exciting. She's going to be discussing her new documentary with us, to which Gaia is picking up, and we'll be discussing her discovery of a Knight Templar cave in Brazil that predates Christopher Columbus. You're not going to want to miss this. And that's going to be a perfect segment to sign off 2020 and roll into 2021. So until then, thank you, good night, and have a fantastic, safe weekend. Good night, everyone.